Well, hello there. My name is Ron Watson, and I am president of Watson Strategies. I'm also the newest lobbyist for the Florida Freedom Alliance. First, let me tell you a little bit about me, and then we can talk about our strategy and how we're going to proceed through session this year. Hard to believe, but I've been a lobbyist now. This will be my 30th session coming up. I got my start back in the '91 with Senator George Stewart, and I have been working in the legislative process for most of my life ever since. I first worked for the Florida Osteopathic Medical Association, then the Florida Medical Association, then the Florida Dental Association, before finally going out on my own and opening up Watson Strategies about 5 years ago. Very personal reason for me to do that, and it's partly why I'm also representing y'all today as well. One of the first things I learned in the process was never make it personal, never take it personal. Well, that's how I acted for most of my legislative career, and then life happens. I lost my 8-year-old child to leukemia after a brave 14-month battle. Prior to that, he had autism, and I actually helped pro bono pass a mandate for coverage of autism. And it was one of my proudest accomplishments as a lobbyist, and I guess I assume that's why God gave me a child with autism. Fast forward 2 years later, and that child had cancer. And so why I am so very involved in the medical cannabis space is I wished I had known then what I know now about cannabis, because I would have done anything I could have possibly done to help my son then. When my son was diagnosed with autism, we did take advantage of the religious freedom and offered our son the opportunity to stretch out his vaccinations. It's partly why I took this client on, because this is something that I believe in deeply and that I think that should be preserved for you and for your children in the future as well. I've had many different healthcare clients throughout my career. Most recently, I represent midwives, I represent the Chiropractic Physician Association, and I represent some medical marijuana clients. Again, representing physicians for most of my life, I now have a lot of contacts and influence in that particular world, and it's now why a lot of individuals have been hiring me to try to make sure their legislative issues move smoothly. For the midwives, most recently, adverse incident reporting was something that the docs were trying to shove down their throat, and we made it fair for them. So I've been approached by the Florida Freedom Alliance, and what we're going to try to do is to protect your religious freedoms this year. How are we going to go about doing that? Well, there's been a bill filed, Senate Bill 64, as I'm sure you're aware of, in the Senate. It's been referred to 3 committees so far, and what we're going to do is have a targeted strategy to try to make sure that this bill doesn't get to the finish line. Again, what I'd like to talk about is preparing for the finish line, and maybe I'll give you the storm analogy with everything that's going on right now. But we're in the process of making sure that we have gas, that we're gathering batteries, that we make sure we have the generator. It's not quite time to plug the generator in yet, because the storm hasn't arrived. The storm has a name. It is Senate Bill 64, and we know that it may be coming, and we're in the process of trying to prepare for that storm. So again, I know some of you all might want to have your hair on fire right now or sharpening the pitchforks, and that time will come, but we're just not quite ready for that time just yet. We are in the gathering of information, we are in the making sure we're talking with leadership, and we're trying behind the scenes to make sure this storm may not hit us directly. So with all of that said, I'm just here today to kind of share with you a little bit about my past and the fact that we do have a plan moving forward. Part of that plan is to make sure this bill is defeated, is that we're going to focus on the religious freedoms and not the anti-vaccine. I believe that that is the best winning argument for us moving forward. And at the end of the day, what we're after is the defeat of Senate Bill 64. It's not as important to make points as it is to be successful in the legislative process. So just know that we have a plan, we're going to execute that plan, and the time will come when we need you to contact members, and we are going to need you to be very active. But at this time, we are gathering information, we are preparing the strategy, and we are going to execute this plan. And at the end of session, we're going to have a very successful, hopefully, outcome for the Florida Freedom Alliance. A little bit about how the process works. We have committee meetings starting in September. September 16th is the first week. Then we have 2 weeks in October, we have 2 weeks in November, and 1 week in December before session starts in January. No bill can pass before they go to the floor in January. We will know on September 10th if they plan on hearing any bills the first committee week. So they have to post 7 days before the meeting. So we will know by September 10th if there's going to be Senate Bill 64 heard in the first Health Policy Committee. And we will proceed from that point forward if that occurs. If it doesn't occur in September, it may occur in October, and we will be prepared at that point. There is no House bill as we speak right now, and we were doing our best to talk with leadership to let them know that this is not a fight that they want to have. It is an election year, and I don't think any Republican needs to have a primary opponent that says, you voted against my religious freedom. So stay tuned. A lot more information is coming, but know that you have a professional lobbyist helping you this time. And our goal is to have Senate Bill 64 defeated. Behind the scenes, I can't really report to you everything that's going on because frankly I don't want you to know everything that's going on, but understand that we have been talking with leadership in both sides of the chambers, and I've been trying to get them to understand that they don't really want to have a jihad this particular year, because what we're going to do, hopefully, if you all will follow my direction, is we're going to make this all about your religious freedom and your rights. That is what this argument should be about. It should not necessarily be about anti-vaccines and how horrible they are. And I think if you want to win, that is exactly how you will go about doing this. Also, please be very respectful on social media and in person. Always agree to disagree with someone, because this particular senator was actually Senator of the Year for one of my other clients. And so sometimes a senator or a representative can be your best friend on one issue, and then they can turn around and be not necessarily on your next issue. But you have to learn how to be respectful and to work the process and to work the issues. That's how you'll become successful in this process. 45 other states presently have this religious exemption. California and New York most recently have eliminated this, and Florida is run by conservative Republicans. We are not California. We are not New York, nor do we want to become that. And that's exactly one of the arguments we're going to make to this legislature. So what do you do? How can you help? Well, what you can do right now is that you can give a donation to the Florida Freedom Alliance. You can go to their website at floridafreedomalliance.org and give a contribution. There's going to be expenses. There's going to be expert witnesses. There's going to be travel. There is my expense. Please donate to the Florida Freedom Alliance now. That is one way that you can actively help this movement.